You step onto a narrow causeway, and the city rises in front of you, not as a rumor, but as something real, something overwhelming. Water surrounds everything. Canoes glide past you in steady lines, carrying food, stone, people, stories. The canals stretch like veins through the city, alive with movement, controlled, purposeful. You are not looking at a simple settlement. You are standing inside one of the most powerful places in the world. As you move deeper, the noise grows. The market pulls you in first. Thousands of voices, traders calling out prices, bright fabrics, cacao beans, tools, food stacked in careful order. Everything feels organized, almost controlled, as if nothing here is left to chance. You realize this is not chaos. This is a system that works, a city that feeds itself, that sustains hundreds of thousands of people without breaking. Then you see the temples. They rise above everything else, towering over the city, watching it. Stone steps climb sharply toward the sky, stained by years of ritual and belief. People move with purpose here, quietly, respectfully, as if the city itself is breathing through these structures. Power is not hidden, it is displayed. It is meant to be seen, and you feel it. Not just wealth, not just size, but control. This empire is not a loose collection of cities. It is a network built through dominance. The Triple Alliance has extended its reach across central Mexico, pulling in tribute from countless regions. Food, goods, people, all flowing toward this place. You begin to understand that what you are seeing is only the center of something much larger. Then you notice the warriors. They are not ordinary soldiers. Their presence is deliberate, almost ceremonial, yet unmistakably dangerous. Armor, weapons, symbols of rank. They do not just defend this city, they enforce it. Every movement, every glance, reminds you that this empire is maintained by strength, by the ability to take, to punish, to capture. And that is when the feeling shifts. Because beneath everything you have seen, beneath the beauty, the order, the scale, there is something else, something quieter, but heavier. This city does not stand on loyalty. It stands on fear. Every tribute that arrives, every captive taken in war, every distant city that sends goods here, does so because it must, not because it chooses to. The system works, but it demands obedience. And obedience is never the same as trust. You feel it now, even if no one says it out loud. This empire looks eternal, but something this powerful, something built this tightly, does not bend easily, and when it does not break slowly. At first, nothing looks different. The canals still move, the markets still breathe, the temples still stand above you, unchanged, but the feeling you had before, that quiet weight beneath the beauty, begins to take shape. You start to hear things, not loudly, not openly, but enough to make you pause. People talk about the outer cities, not with pride, not with unity, but with distance. You hear that some of them do not come willingly. That tribute is taken, not offered. That captives are demanded, not negotiated. You begin to understand that this empire holds together because it must, not because everyone believes in it. And once you notice that, it becomes impossible to ignore. There are places beyond this city that do not see it as the center of the world. They see it as something they endure. Then the rumors change. They are no longer about tribute or distant cities. They are about something new, something coming from the coast. Strangers, not from any known people, not from any familiar direction. The kind of story that feels uncertain at first, like something that will disappear if you do not repeat it. But it does not disappear. It grows. You hear about animals no one has seen before, large, powerful, moving as one with the men who ride them. You hear about weapons that cut through armor, that strike from a distance, that make sounds like thunder. These are not the tools you know. Not obsidian, not wood, not anything familiar. And then, for the first time, you see them. Not as stories, but as something real. The animals are not spirits. They are creatures, but faster, stronger than anything you have known. The metal shines differently. It does not break the way stone does. The weapons speak with fire and smoke. You do not mistake them for gods. No one around you does. They are something else, something powerful, something unpredictable, something dangerous in a way you have never had to understand before. And yet, even as you try to make sense of them, something even more unsettling begins to unfold. They are not alone. You start to hear that other people are walking beside them. Not strangers from across the sea, but people from this land. People who know these valleys, these roads, these cities. People who have fought against this empire for years. Tlaxcala is one of them. You know that name. Everyone does. A rival that was never fully controlled. A people who resisted when others submitted. And now, instead of fighting the strangers, they are moving with them. Not because they trust them, but because they see an opportunity. An enemy of their enemy. And suddenly, the balance you thought was fixed begins to shift. Because this is no longer about a small group of outsiders arriving at the edge of the world, you know. This is something much larger. Alliances are forming, not in secret, but in motion. Thousands of warriors joining a force that was once only a rumor. And there is someone making it possible. A woman you would never expect to matter this much. Malinke. She speaks the languages that connect worlds that should not be able to understand each other. She does more than translate words. She carries meaning, intention, strategy. Through her, agreements are made. Through her, trust is built where none existed before. Without her, these strangers would be isolated, unable to move beyond confusion. With her, they are something else entirely. They are organized. They are connected. They are growing. And now, when you look at your city, at its strength, its order, its power, you begin to feel something you could ignore before. Not fear of the strangers alone, but fear of everything that is starting to move around them. Because the empire still stands. It still looks unshakable, but the ground beneath it is no longer still. You are still inside the city when they enter, not as shadows at the edge of the empire, but here, within it, walking the same causeways, crossing the same canals, standing beneath the same towering temples you have always known. Everything looks the same, but nothing feels the same. The tension is no longer distant. It is everywhere. You can feel it in the silence between conversations, in the way people watch instead of speak. They are allowed in, but they are not trusted. And you sense it immediately. This is not control. This is something fragile, something that could break at any moment. Days pass, then weeks. The unease grows. You hear that the strangers are being watched closely, that decisions are being made behind closed doors. No one explains it to you, but you understand enough to feel the pressure building. Then, without warning, it breaks. You hear the noise first. Not the usual sound of the city, but something sharper, violent, out of place. The festival should have been a moment of ritual, of order, of meaning. Instead, it becomes something else entirely. At the great temple during Tenochtitlan, the unarmed gather as they always have, expecting ceremony. What follows is not ceremony. It is killing. The attack is sudden and brutal. Nobles, priests, musicians, cut down where they stand. There is no warning, no space to react. You do not need to understand every detail to know that something irreversible has just happened. The city explodes. What was once contained becomes uncontrollable. People shout, run, gather weapons. The strangers who were inside are now surrounded. The fragile balance that held everything together collapses in a single moment. You move through the chaos without direction. The streets you knew now feel unfamiliar. Everywhere you look, there is movement, anger, fear. This is no longer tension. This is war. Inside the city itself. And then you hear something else. Montezuma is dead. No one tells the story the same way. Some say he was struck by his own people, rejected in a moment of fury and disbelief. Others say the strangers killed him when they realized they were losing control. You do not know which is true. What you do know is that the center of power is gone. And once that happens, everything accelerates. The fighting intensifies. The strangers try to leave. They move at night, carrying what they can, trying to escape across the same narrow paths that once welcomed them. You are close enough to see what happens next. It turns into a slaughter. Bodies fall into the water. Men weighed down, unable to move, disappearing beneath the surface. The darkness hides nothing. You hear the struggle, the panic, the sound of people trying to survive and failing. Later, they will call it a night of sorrow. For you, it is something simpler. It is a night where the city itself fights back. And for a moment, it feels like the empire might hold. But that feeling does not last. Because something else arrives. Not an army, not a weapon you can see. Something quieter, but far more destructive. People begin to fall sick. At first, it seems isolated, something that will pass. Then, it spreads, faster than anything you have known. You start to see it everywhere. Bodies covered in sores. People unable to stand, unable to move, unable to care for themselves. Families disappear in days. There are not enough people left to help the sick, not enough strength to keep order. No one understands what it is. There is no name for it in the way you would expect, no clear cause, no way to fight it. It does not care who you are, how strong you are, what position you hold. It takes people the same way, without warning, without reason. Leaders die. Warriors die. Entire households vanish. And with them, something else disappears. Structure. Coordination. The ability to resist in the way you once could. You begin to realize that what is happening now cannot be stopped in the way wars are usually fought. This is not about strategy anymore, not about strength alone. This is something that moves through the city itself, breaking it from within. And for the first time, you understand something you could not fully see before. The empire is not just under attack. It is coming apart. You are still here when the siege closes around you. At first, you think it will pass. The city has endured before. It has always found a way to hold. But this feels different almost immediately. The water routes begin to fail. Canoes stop arriving. The steady rhythm that once fed the city disappears. And with it, something essential that you had never needed to think about before. You start to feel thirst before you fully understand why. The aqueduct is gone. The clean water that once flowed into the city is no longer reaching you. What remains is stagnant, unreliable, sometimes undrinkable. You hesitate, then drink anyway. There is no real choice left. Food follows the same path. At first, it becomes scarce. Then, it becomes something you search for. Then, it becomes something you cannot find at all. The markets that once felt endless are empty. The order you trusted has collapsed into silence. And the people begin to change. You see it in their faces first, then in their bodies. Weakness spreads slowly, then all at once. Hunger is not a single moment. It stretches, deepens, becomes part of everything you do. People begin to eat what they would never have considered before. Roots pulled from the ground, bitter plants, anything that might keep them alive for another day. Some accounts speak of people chewing on wood, on dry grasses, even on earth itself, just to quiet the pain. You do not need to question it when you are here. You understand. Because the city around you is no longer the place you knew. There are bodies now. Not hidden, not removed, but present. In streets, in homes, in places that once held life. Disease has not disappeared. It moves alongside hunger, taking those who were already weakened, then those who were not. There are not enough people left to care for the dead, and soon, not enough strength to care for the living. The water changes too. Those who survived would later describe it in ways that are difficult to forget. Water that looks altered, thick with what has passed through the city. When you drink it, you do not think about what it was before. You think only about what you need now. And yet, even here, something refuses to break. You still hear the sounds of resistance. Warriors continue to move through the city, not as symbols anymore, but as the last line holding everything together. They fight in conditions that would stop most people from standing. They adapt, they learn, they continue even as everything around them collapses. You hear the name Cuauhtémoc, not as a distant ruler, but as someone still present, still leading, still refusing to give in. His position does not shield him from what you are experiencing. He is part of it, just as you are. And that matters, because it means the fight is still real. The city is starving. It is sick. It is surrounded. But it has not surrendered. You feel both things at once. The weight of what is being lost, and the force of those who refuse to let it go. It is not hope in the way you might expect. It is something harder, a kind of endurance that exists even when the outcome is no longer in your control. And as the days continue, As the siege stretches on, you begin to understand that what you are witnessing is not just the destruction of a city. It is the limit of what people can endure, and the choice to keep going anyway. You feel the end before you see it. The fighting does not stop all at once. It fades, weakens, breaks apart in pieces. The sounds that once filled the city with resistance begin to disappear. What replaces them is something heavier. Not victory, not relief, but silence. On 13 Augustus 1521, it is over. You do not need someone to tell you. You see it in what remains. The city that once moved with purpose now barely moves at all. Smoke rises where buildings once stood. Fire has passed through streets you used to recognize. The canals are no longer pathways of life. They carry debris, fragments, memory. There are bodies everywhere, not hidden, not honored, just present. A reality no one has the strength to change. The scale of it is difficult to hold in your mind. This was once one of the largest cities in the world. Now it feels empty, even when people are still here. And then you hear that Cuauhtémoc has been captured, not in a final stand that changes everything, but in a moment that confirms what you already feel. The last leader of the empire is taken while trying to escape across the water. With him, the last organized resistance ends. There is no reversal after this. What remains is survival. The city does not recover. It is taken apart, stone by stone, structure by structure. The same foundations that once held temples and homes are used again, but for something else. A new city begins to rise over what is left of the old one. Mexico City will stand where Tenochtitlan once stood. And as this happens, the loss continues in ways that are less visible, but just as real. Disease does not end with the fighting. It spreads further, reaching beyond the city, beyond the moment of conquest. In the years that follow, entire communities disappear. The population falls at a scale that is difficult to fully grasp, with many regions losing the majority of their people. What you are witnessing is not just the fall of a capital. It is the collapse of a world. The structures of power are gone. The system that held everything together no longer exists. Much of what defined this place, its rituals, its political order, its public life, is broken apart. And yet, this is not the same as disappearance. Because even here, something remains. People continue. Quietly, carefully, often out of sight, traditions are carried forward. Burial practices, beliefs, ways of understanding the world are not simply erased. They adapt. They move into spaces where they can survive. Some groups negotiate their place within the new system. Others resist in ways that are less visible, but no less real. The empire is gone, but the people are not. And when you step back from everything you have seen, from the rise, the fracture, the collapse, you are left with something that is difficult to simplify. This was not a clean ending, not a single victory that explains everything. It was a convergence of forces, human decisions, alliances, disease, conflict, all unfolding at once. You thought you were living inside something permanent. Now, you understand how quickly that can change, and how, even after something ends, parts of it continue in ways you cannot always see. For me, this story is not just about the fall of an empire. It is about how power can hide its weaknesses until everything suddenly gives way. What happened here feels deeply human, shaped by choices, fear, and forces no one could control. I would really like to hear what you think about this moment in history. Do you see it as inevitable, or something that could have been different? If you enjoy this kind of storytelling, consider subscribing to When History Broke and be part of the conversation.